President Trump's immigration enforcement crackdown is hitting full throttle in Charlotte, North Carolina. Fox News rode along with Border Patrol as they carried out Operation Charlotte's Web. Agents rounded up hundreds of people in the U.S. illegally. Listen.
We're still out on the streets here of Charlotte. We're still taking it to the bad guys. And regardless of this violent vitriol that you see here in Charlotte, we're really taking it to the bad guys. 275 apprehensions. We'll be at about 300 by this time tomorrow morning. And as you say, there's no stopping.
All right, Madison Scarpino is there in Charlotte with all the details for us. Good morning, Madison.
Good morning, Jillian. It's day 6 of this massive immigration crackdown. And yesterday we got the chance to go inside of the operation. We went around with several Border Patrol agents all across Charlotte, and almost immediately agitators arrived.
I hope you all kill yourself.
People were also honking their horns, blowing whistles, cussing at agents. But Assistant Chief Patrol Agent David Kim says it's not stopping their mission.
Border Patrol's been doing this for 101 years, and we've got quite a bit of experience knowing what to look for, where to look for it. We've been highly successful so far.
At first, everyone Border Patrol was checking turned out to be in the country legally. But not long after pulling into a shopping center, 2 men start sprinting in the parking lot. This led to a chase both by foot and car. One of the guys got away, but the other caught. Border Patrol says this man from Mexico admitted to being in the country illegally and was added to the hundreds of people arrested so far. And while the operation has a lot of support, it's making many Charlotte community members angry. People are protesting every day. They claim agents are racially profiling. They say people aren't showing up to their jobs. And the school system here says up to 30,000 students aren't showing up to class.
How can you concentrate on learning when you're wondering if someone's going to come into the room and grab you, or when you get to school, someone could grab one of your parents? There's a lot of anxiety going on, and it's just unnecessary.
And tomorrow, an activist group is calling on several businesses and schools to either not show up or do walkouts to protest all of this.
Right there. It's that one.
Activate the statue of deportation.
Positive energy flow.
The statue of deportation has arrived in New York City.
Do you have any idea how good your life could be with mass deportations? So many of the concurrent issues that we face today in this country are because our idiot leaders from both sides decided to flood our nation with 150 new aliens. I'm just going to call them aliens because they weren't born here. They're not from here. They're not often congruent with our culture. It makes for zero homogeneity, zero trust society, and it creates fractures in systems that were never designed to accommodate this kind of spike in foreign-born populations. It's happening across this country, and all of the problems that are occurring concurrently right now in this nation could be ameliorated with mass deportations, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to talk about that today on the show because it's something that is critically important to every facet of society. Everything that you think is wrong with society directly correlates back to approximately 40 years ago in the 1980s, Ronald Reagan deciding that the first amnesty, because of his liberal wife and her bleeding heart Hollywood friends, Ronald Reagan, in the late stages of dementia, which is true, was manipulated by Nancy Reagan to give the first mass amnesty that turned California blue forever and opened the floodgates. And now we are living inside of a system where there is no more Democrat Party. There is simply the party of the third world. And they are wishing to bring that third world to America. And they've done it, by the way. They've been successful. Both parties have colluded to do this. And it is our job to put an end to it and to fix the problems that are already here upon our shores. That's what we're going to talk about today, Thursday, November 20th, 2025. Mass deportations in Charlotte, Los Angeles, Chicago, New York show the cities that America should have. It's wild. If for just a few precious hours and a few precious days during these mass ICE raids, you're able to witness the majesty of what this nation could actually be without the parasitic invasion of criminal aliens. It is a remarkable thing. We're going to highlight that this morning because, quite frankly, this was the 2024 election. More than anything, it boils just down to this. We harp on this program about so many concurrent problems, but this is it. This is the ball game, ladies and gentlemen. And by the way, if we don't solve it now, we'll never win again. I'm not meaning to be a doomer this morning. I'm often one of those guys who's on the sunny side of the street, silver linings of the cloud, but the cloud that hangs over our country is great. And I want a future for my children. So that's my motivation. Trump signs bill authorizing release of Epstein files. Good. Will it backfire on Democrats? It already has. We'll cover some of that. Scott Jennings will rejoin the show. He was here yesterday and didn't go great. We had the shot crash and his shot completely collapsed. And that's just what happens sometimes when you're 100% live. And we are live. We'll be live with Senator Markwayne Mullin, who oversaw the Senate sending the Epstein bill to President Trump. We're going to talk a little bit about how stupid Republicans are on the program and how dumb they are to let Democrats somehow get the upper hand in something that is clearly their problem with Jeffrey Epstein. Again, Markwayne Mullin will be on the program to discuss all of it. My name is Benny Johnson, and this is The Benny Show. When I go home to masa chips on my table for probably 4 out of every 5 dinners that we have per night. We cook dinner in my family. This is my wife. Sometimes she'll make chicken. Sometimes I'm responsible for grilling that. I love those nights. Gets me outside on the grill, and I grill my chicken breast, and then we eat it with salsa, make like a little salad, and you have the masa chips. My wife will have a home-cooked dinner for me when I come home. That is the way of the Johnson household. That's the way I like it. That's the way I want it. My wife is a nurse. She stays at home with the kids, no longer practicing. Our children are going to be her foremost priority. Their health is their foremost priority. So now my kids have a private nurse, effectively, which is their mother. And man, she is vicious with ensuring that poisons do not get into our household, that our kids are well fed, and that they have good nutrition and nutrients in their diets. And this is part of our diet. So what does that tell you? And I'm telling you, man, we haven't seen a Snickers bar or a Fruit Loop or a Lucky Charm in this household, man, or a Cheeto. That just is what it is. It makes you feel great because masa chips are made out of all 3 all-natural ingredients. It's just corn and salt and beef tallow. It's the way God intended. They're crunchy. They leave you with no bloat. They leave you with energy. Give masa a try. Go to masachips.com/Benny. Use the code Benny for 25% off your first order. That's masachips.com/Benny. Use the code Benny for 25% off. They're now available in Sprouts markets nationwide. Okay. Good job numbers. I did want to start with this. Some really positive numbers out of our nation for jobs. Obviously, there's a lot of people that have been dooming over the last couple of weeks and months. There have been some spikes. There's been some crashes. But really, it's all just going to be about the economy. How does this all tie in together? Well, it really does, doesn't it? President Trump, since taking office from January through September 2025, 2.5 million native-born Americans gained employment. 1.3 million foreign workers lost employment. 2.64 native-born Americans joined the labor force. 1.23 million foreign-born workers left the labor force through either mass deportations or forced deportation or voluntary deportation or an inability to get a job because they are a criminal alien. How many criminal aliens do we have in our country? Well, many suspect that it would be 20 million. That's been the round number that's been kicked around. But of course, we don't know. And if what's happening in Charlotte is any indication of the true problem that we are facing here, then it is so much more severe than we could possibly imagine. You're talking about numbers more like 80 million. You're talking about a fifth of the country that's illegal and criminal and doesn't belong here. Let's go ahead and jump over to the job numbers. I just want to bang the drum a little bit here. There is no such thing as voodoo economics. Economics is simply supply and demand. And, well, I can't wait to get to this, but every problem in your country has been created by mass immigration and criminal immigration. All of it. As you get the criminals out of the country, as you dial the legal migration down to zero, which is where it should be. It should be zero for the rest of my life. Benny, what's your problem? What's your immigration policy? Zero. 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 For the rest of my life. Why? The damage that has been done over the past 40 years, I've been alive for approximately 40 years. I was born in the 80s. 39 years old. The damage that has been done in my lifetime is inexplicable. We need a time for America to settle. It is right now a pot boiling over. It is certainly no melting pot. It is a pot that has cracked. You are seeing entire communities fracture and break away, like in Dearborn. You're seeing Muslim caliphates being formed, communists gaining control of our largest and most powerful cities in New York. You're seeing entire no-go zones created, even in states like Florida and Miami, places like Little Haiti. You have these places all across America. And of course, you have the streets of Kensington in Philadelphia, where native-born Americans are so utterly polluted, broken, hopeless, that they'll just end their lives in a fentanyl stupor, shipped happily across the border via Mexico from China. Our country is broken. As we harmonize, which will naturally happen if you do not add more chaos to the laws of entropy, which is what we're experiencing right now. Too many electrons, too much chaos, too many instabilities in our nation. When I was born, our nation was 90% white Christian. 90%. How could you say that? Does that mean that's what's the number one goal for you? Is that it? You racist? I am talking homogeneity. I am simply talking a high trust society. How do you get that? You get that through assimilation. You get that through being able to speak the same language as your neighbor, have the same background, traditions, histories of your neighbor, where Thanksgiving dinner means the same thing to you. These are how every country stays together for all time. What we've done to our nation is inexplicable. By the way, it's breaking smaller and weaker European nations that don't even resemble themselves anymore. I mean, they're just done. The UK and France, it's just over for these nations. They're a vapor of themselves. It's depressing to go there. There is no such thing as French culture anymore. Try going into Beijing and pushing these policies. It's amazing. Every other nation, every other culture, some tribe in Papua New Guinea, some uncontacted place, my liberal friends would say, well, you definitely shouldn't put a Trump Tower in the middle of that tribe. We must preserve their heritage. We must preserve what makes them connect to their ancestors, to their land. It's immoral to put a Walmart in the middle of Papua New Guinea, in the middle of this tribe's sacred place. We must preserve them. And by the way, like the modern day left will say that about every culture. Beijing, North Korea, Cuba, every culture but ours. Every culture but America. Every culture in the world deserves preservation except Western cultures. Isn't that fascinating? You'll never hear that. It's, of course, the same principle. Whether you like it or not, whether it hurts your feelings or not, it's the same principle that we do have a distinct, unique, and precious culture and traditions in this land, and that our heritage is worth preserving. It's totally common sense. And by the way, it's common sense when projected onto a obscure tribe, in the middle of an island nation, the middle of the Pacific. It makes sense then, but it doesn't make sense for us. That's why we're going to talk about mass deportations and the evils of mass migration. Overwhelming mass migration. I'm not talking about things that are under control. I'm talking about things we have to stop today. Why I'm in favor of a net zero immigration policy, saying net zero. And why a cooling down and an assimilation time should be the rest of my life. The rest of my life, based on what our idiotic leaders have done. We have to fix. They have done inexplicable damage to our nation over the last 40 years, and we must reverse that trend. We need to have an assimilation period back into a harmonious culture, a high-trust society. For me, to look forward into the future and say that this is going to be a nation that continues for our children, my children, and your children, we're going to need to have that. It is something, in fact, that the vice president just recently argued. Ben, your ideas are so extreme. Nope. Actually, these ideas are precisely what has preserved every culture for all time, or been, by the way, the destruction of empires like Rome, who had to outsource to foreign nations, armies, and mercenaries, all functions of their society until their society collapsed. And we're there. We're there. The Charlotte raids prove it. That's what we're going to speak about today. Let's talk job numbers, robust job numbers, real quickly here from CNBC. Things going well. These are the kind of things you want to see, obviously. And the reasons why you want to see them is because it shows a trend line that we are slowly but surely bending back to where we need to be, which is Americans having jobs, Americans having priority over the foreigner. Here we go.
This is the September jobs report. Non-farm payrolls are up a robust 119,000. 119,000 would be the best since April, when we were up 158,000. If we look at labor force participation rate, it ticked up. That's a good thing. 62.4 equals where we were in May. You have to go to April of this year when it was 62.6 to find a higher number. If we look at the hours worked, and this is always important, it remains at 34.2. To find a lower number, you're going to January when it was 34.1. We have initial jobless claims. This is for the week of November 15th. As I said, there's weeks missing. We're expecting 227,000. Comes in at 220,000. These numbers do not reflect nervousness in the labor market. They've been very well behaved. 220,000 would be the lowest level of claims since mid-July.
It's wonderful to see. We need to talk more about the wins. You know that our show has a singular priority, and that is not to lick any boots. Certainly is to appeal to what's in your bones as an American, to preserve what is left of our nation and culture, and to defeat the evils that have been beset upon our nation. What are the problems of today? What are the major irritants of modern society? Well, it kind of is a grab bag. But let's do some of the top line. The rent is too high. Groceries cost too much. There's not enough jobs. Women don't feel safe walking down the street. Traffic is terrible. Healthcare is too expensive. Housing costs are too high. Gasoline costs are too high. There's not enough space on the roads or the streets for our kids to play anymore. The parks aren't safe anymore. The schools are too crowded. My God. Can you believe how long the lines are? The airport. My goodness. Things have gotten out of control. There's no dollar menu anymore. Everything has just skyrocketed in expense, and we can't figure out why. And our federal government is spending so much money on what exactly? Criminal aliens. The answer to every one of those questions, the answer to every one of those gripes and bitches and complaints is to deport 20 million criminal illegal aliens. Everyone. Rent is too high. Well, there's 20 million illegals here that are jacking up your rent. Housing costs are too high. Well, yeah, you're having to compete with 20 million people that don't belong here. Grocery prices are too high. Well, yeah, the 20 million people are on WIC and SNAP and welfare. They're getting free groceries. Well, if somebody's getting free groceries, what do you think that does for the people who are paying for groceries? It's supply and demand. There's only so much bread on the shelf. If 20% of that bread is going for free out the door, paid for by you, of course, what is that going to do to the other 80%? Supply and demand. Things have gotten so expensive. Gas is so expensive. Well, you're competing. I mean, the gas prices, that's another finite resource. You're competing with 20 million criminal aliens that are here. My electricity costs, the costs to run everyday life, all of it boils down to 20 million criminal aliens who don't belong here, using not only the resources that are available to all of us in the free market, but most of them being subsidized. It gets so much worse when you realize that rent is high because the government is paying their rent. Grocery prices are high because the government is paying for their groceries. Healthcare costs are high because the government is paying for their healthcare. 64% of the births in Dearborn, Michigan, a city that is completely and entirely overrun by Sharia law and Muslim leadership. It is like its own Muslim enclave. It's been completely and totally taken over, by the way, a model that's going to happen to city after city in this nation unless we do something about it. 64% of births there are on Medicaid. That means we're paying. We're paying for the destruction of our culture. You're funding it. It is the single cruelest, most pseudomasochistic joke in human history. And it's happened to other cultures. Rome. Man, people think about Rome. What happens in Rome when it gets too successful? People stop to work. People stop working. But they still need to have functional services and functional army, but the Romans get too fat and happy. They begin to see themselves as gods. Their leaders saw themselves as gods. The people and citizens saw themselves as demigods. And when leaders start seeing themselves as God in a land, then the institutions will collapse, because God is God. The government is not God. The government is there to serve the people, not to be God. The government is there to serve you, not to lord over you. But the rulers see themselves as gods. The citizenry see themselves as demigods. They lose all faith in the institutions because they're not properly assembled and descendant. And then their society, they begin to see holes in their society, so they import foreigners, more and more and more, until there is no such thing as being a Roman anymore. The people who remember what that was like to have a congruent culture and a high trust society, and a society where we all believed in certain elements of it. I'm not talking about pure and total, everyone must be a automaton where we all believe the exact same thing, but like there are like basic structures and heritages and traditions that we ascribe to. That was gone, atomized in Rome. And that's what's happening here. That exact same plan, that exact same operation is happening here. And our leaders chose to do it. They had higher GDP numbers. But they cared not for the people of this nation. They didn't ask some of the follow-up questions, which is, what would happen if we took this nation of 150 million people and added 150 million foreigners? What would occur? Well, what you're seeing today would occur. I have a map for you. It's an incredible map that shows you the traffic around Charlotte, North Carolina, before and after the ICE raids. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the result of ICE raids in Charlotte that have sent criminal aliens back into their homes. This is something that is astonishing to the people of Charlotte. They had no idea how bad their lives have gotten because 20% of their city doesn't belong there. Now, why would this immediately evaporate why would ICE raids immediately evaporate the criminal aliens? We went on some ICE raids, and here's why. ICE, especially in sanctuary cities like Charlotte, doesn't cooperate with local law enforcement. When local law enforcement arrests a criminal alien, they can't turn him over to ICE. And so ICE has to go and round people up on the streets. But everybody has a Fourth Amendment right, not arguing against that. You would have to get a warrant in order to go into the home in order to arrest the criminal alien. That means you have to go to the judge. This is a long process. And so you're talking mass deportations, actually finding criminal aliens in their place of employment or outside is the most efficient way to actually arrest them and then deport them. And so the criminal aliens stay inside. And then this is what you get. The only people that are inside in Charlotte are the criminal aliens. And look at the difference in life. Look at the difference in life in your schools. My school is too crowded. There's too many kids in my school's classroom. Things have gotten out of control. Listen to this teacher in Charlotte, North Carolina, talk about how many kids are actually showing up to school. According to some of this anecdotal data, something like 30 to 40% of the kids that we are paying to be educated to be babysat by our public school system are criminal aliens. We are right now paying for the total replacement and then education of a foreign nation, totally alien to us, but you pay for it. Here we go.
Class typically has 16 students in it. We had 4.
District-wide, there are 145,030 students enrolled in Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools. On Monday, 30,399 were absent, 28,136 unexcused. While CMS doesn't break down the numbers by ethnic origin, Gillespie, a multilingual teacher, did.
Children of parents from Angola, from Vietnam, but the students whose parents come from Latin American countries were the students we were missing. So that was kind of the line, even among the ML students, is that we were missing Hispanic students.
Check out these construction sites. Construction sites completely empty. There's normally 100 guys on these jobs, and 2 showed up. How much of your economy is fake? Meaning, how much of your economy has been handed over to a foreign population that doesn't belong here, that doesn't pay taxes, construction that is being done off their backs, remittances being sent home to their nations, not taxed, by the way, something that is totally and completely remarkable to me. They can send money home tax-free. You need to tax remittances at 100%. Any money being sent out of America needs to be taxed in that manner. How many criminal aliens are there in Charlotte? Why exactly are these raids going on? Well, there's hundreds of thousands. Charlotte, as a city, has 800,000 people living in it. There's apparently 150,000 foreign-born. How many of them are criminal aliens? Here we go.
Tonight, Charlotte, North Carolina is the latest city to see a surge in immigration enforcement. Officers today started detaining people. The city is made up of more than 900,000 people, including more than 150,000 who are foreign-born, according to officials. Local leaders object to the federal force, saying it instills fear and uncertainty.
You did this. Of course it instills fear. What are you talking about? Of course it instills fear. You're here illegally. You don't belong here. You're a criminal. Look at some of this protest footage. Foreign flags being waved in Charlotte, North Carolina. Look at your fellow. Look at there's just your classic shot of North Carolinians right there. Something like 55% of the school districts in 55% of the students in North Carolina now are Hispanic. Like when I was born, it was like 80% white, 20% black. Those were the numbers 40 years ago. Now this. They've changed. The Great Replacement theory isn't a theory at all. It's Great Replacement practice. It's happened. It's already done. And you're paying for it. Every problem in American society can be boiled back down to this. There are 20 to 40 million people here that do not belong here. The vast majority of them are using precious public resources. And that is why life is collapsing. Stephen Miller says, so a conservative estimate is that 1/7 of a major public school system is here illegally. Stephen Miller locked in. He has a new terminology for the Democrat Party. He just unveiled it last night. I agree with it entirely. Here we go.
They don't believe in systems. They don't believe in rules. They don't believe in laws. They believe in whatever keeps them in power. And if what they think keeps them in power is a military insurrection or a CIA insurrection, that's what they support. But if in a different setting, if, say, a soldier doesn't want to take the COVID vaccine, then they represent a threat to order in their view, and that person must be crushed and deprived of employment, deprived of opportunity. If a Democrat, for example, complains about election integrity, that person's a hero. If a Republican complains of election integrity, that person's to be jailed and incarcerated for life. This is the moment that we're in. This is what we're dealing with. So when we say that Democrats are communists, we don't just mean that, well, they believe in the state control of property. We mean they've adopted a method of thinking in which any use of force is justified for their end state of power and control. So they become a third world party, and we have to internalize that. We're not dealing with the old Democratic Party. We're dealing with a third world party.
What does a third world party look like? This is what your leaders have done. 21,000 students absent today, Charlotte Public Schools, due to ICE operations. 15% of total enrollment. When your kids are coming home and they can't speak or read or think or do math, ask yourself a question. It didn't used to be that way. We used to have the best schools on earth, the best universities on earth. How much of your child's future is being dumbed down because they have to share classes with people that don't speak English? They have to share classes with people who are scared of ICE raids. Well, of course you should be scared. Of course a criminal is scared when the cops show up. You're here illegally. You broke our laws. And how much of this is like actually happening at scale throughout the nation? This is why we're focusing on Charlotte today, because it's a microcosm of what's happening in every single major American city, at least run by Democrats. All the teachers use translators. It's so much worse than people can possibly imagine. Note from a parent in North Carolina. How much of your American-born child's life is being robbed? Some American-born children's lives are being robbed, Laken Riley's, for instance. But how much of their future is being robbed because the teachers, instead of educating your child in English, are having to use translators to speak Spanish to the kids that don't belong here from Honduras? 90% of NYC housing rentals are occupied by people born outside of the United States. 32% of public housing, 44% of rent stabilized units. How many are illegals? You want affordable housing options? This is your problem. Every single problem in American society that you hate today, the crime is too high. Oh, really? Well, it looks like today in my timeline, an absolutely bombshell reporting, there is a true whitewashing going on in our crime statistics. It's a huge undertaking with some alarming findings. As it turns out, a very large portion of Hispanic criminals are being misclassified as white. It's a big effect. Hispanic crime rate is conservatively being underestimated by potentially 30%. Proportion of predicted Hispanics assigned white by state. What did this study find? They used AI to cross-reference 5.5 million criminal records and 1.5 million mugshots from 39 different states. 29% of Hispanics are being misclassified as white in official corrections database. Why would this be? This is because there is an indefensible position right now from the power structures in our nation to say that we are simply bringing in the best and the brightest, that diversity is our strength, and that we must have infinity Hispanic immigrants. They're peaceful. They love America. They're more Americans. They're more American than Americans. Who said that, ALX? Was it Joe Biden? I'm pretty sure it was. They're more American than we are, says Joe Biden, famously. ALX, check me on that. This thread exposes everything. They used AI. They had a 99% match. Their AI could predict the actual race and ethnicity given the mugshot. And here, ladies and gentlemen, are just some of the white criminals. Why would our law enforcement and federal agencies be doing this? They're doing this in order to rig the game. They know the outrage that would happen if the American public actually knew how much worse their lives have gotten because our leaders want two things: higher GDP numbers, a larger welfare state, just a matter of fact, and to rig the population. You know, there is a death spiral that is happening for virtually every blue city. Every blue city will look like Detroit in 10 years if we don't allow another criminal alien to come into this country. Every single one. I can prove it to you. My producers are telling me that we have the senator who's getting ready, and that J.D. Vance actually just went beast mode on this exact topic. He's live at a Breitbart event right now. And that we got to get to it because it's like exactly what we're talking about here today. That every single aspect of your life will be made better with mass deportations. Here's J.D. Vance.
We are seeing the job growth go to native-born American citizens. And what happened under the Biden administration is, to the extent there was any job growth at all, if you looked at the data, almost all of the net job creation in the United States under the Biden administration went to the foreign-born. Now, of course, some of those people are illegal immigrants to the United States, but that means that a lot of the job creation was actually going to illegal aliens who shouldn't have been in our country. The best thing that you can say about the Trump economy is that American jobs are going to American workers for a change, and that's the thing that I'm proudest about with these numbers.
Right. So now,
ladies and gentlemen, piece of data that I wanted to find for you. Here it is. Let's pop it back up. Look at this. Look at this. Look at the decline in populations for young children. These are children under 5 in major cities. So the decline of young children. So this is an excellent indicator as to whether your population is flourishing in your cities, in your municipalities, or whether it is collapsing. Check this out. This is remarkable. This is the death of the Democrat Party. Listen, without these large metropolitan areas, you lose states. You lose states like California. Look at this. 38%. Say negative incidence of child birth and children being born and being raised in San Francisco, down by nearly half. 40% in Los Angeles, 34% in New York, 33% in Boston. You could flip Massachusetts red. I'm telling you, you lose the population of Boston, Chicago, Illinois. It's a dead city. 31% Chicago, Illinois. That ghettoizes Chicago. That turns Chicago into Detroit in one generation. 29% in Portland, 27% in Philadelphia, 24% in Detroit, obviously Baltimore, San Diego. You flip California red. Look at this. San Diego, San Francisco, and Los Angeles. Total and complete population collapse. You wonder why they import tens of millions of criminal aliens. It's to save these cities. They need Pennsylvania. They need California. Without New York City, New York's a red state. That's a matter of fact. They're collapsing. Without Portland, Oregon goes hard red. Some of the biggest, do you know that by number, some of the most Trump counties in America are in Oregon? They're in Eastern Oregon. The most pro-Trump counties. Look at that. What happens to Michigan with that? Trump wins Michigan by 10 points without Detroit. Look at what's going on. So this is why these trends started a while ago because of the Democrat mismanagement of these cities. And this is why they opened up the floodgates and gave these cities, every one of these is a sanctuary city, and then to hand out goodies in order to entice people to move there. And who are they enticing to move there? The people that are the most criminal, the most desperate, because all of the Americans have fled. All of the Americans who can move have. And where do they move? Look at this. Look at this side of the chart. Austin, Texas. Orlando, Florida. Look, you can see Austin, Texas has grown. They have had a 100% increase in childbirths. 100%. Same with Orlando. Same with Raleigh and Charlotte. Obviously, we're talking about the criminal immigration problem there. Some of that has to do with this. Obviously, this is not, I don't think this is segregating out native-born Americans, right, or criminal aliens, but nonetheless, positive trends for all of these red cities in red states. North Carolina is a red state. Florida is a hard red state. Texas as well. Georgia's a red state. Praise God. Arizona's a red state. Thank God. Here's where I live in Tampa. I contributed to that number. Up 50%. Nashville, San Antonio, Denver, Colorado. That's an outlier there. But you have to go down 12 cities to find your first blue city. Las Vegas, Nevada is a red state. Miami. Look at that. There's the ball game right there. There it is. Incredible. That's the difference, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, there it is. Okay. Well, thank you. Well, we'll go right for, we'll go to Senator Mullen here in 1 second, but I got to show you this. This is, I want to get his reaction to this. Here's Joe Biden. Joe Biden, illegals are more American than Americans. This is what we are fighting. Here we go.
These kids have come. They've done well. Most of these kids, there's a lot of them, and they're not just Hispanic, they're Asian Pacific Islanders as well, and they, in fact, have done very, very well. In many cases, they're more Americans than most Americans are because they have done well in school. They believe the basic principles that we all share. I think they should be, in fact, put on a path to citizenship.
That's what they're going to do. And this is what happens if we lose. What happens if we lose is that the 40 million, 30 million, 80 million criminal aliens will immediately be given naturalization by Democrats instantly. That's what will happen. And then they will all, a lot of them vote anyway, then they will all vote. And that'll end the Republic as we know it. So that's what's at stake. And it's worth talking about. Your life is made better by mass deportations. Every single thing you hate about your life right now or American culture is caused by mass immigration and criminal immigration. And it could be fixed by mass deportations. Ladies and gentlemen, joining us now, Senator Mark Wayne Mullen from the great state of Oklahoma. Senator, welcome back to the program. How is the population growing in Oklahoma? Is it like going up, or is it flat, or what's going on?
No, it's going up. It looks like we're like Texas, and during the next census, we're a good chance we pick up a 6 seat. We used to have 6 seats. We only have 5 in the House. We picked up. We lost one in 2000. It looks like we're going to pick up another one up in 2030 now, and which is why I want to talk about the census. Yes. You're absolutely right that our city's underneath attack. Detroit, it runs Michigan. Denver and Boulder runs Colorado. Otherwise, Colorado would be red. You look at what they're trying to do in Houston and Dallas, Fort Worth. And remember, Jerry Polis is the one who wrote the book on how to turn Jerry Polis, by the way, is the most liberal governor we have in the United States. He's the one that wrote the book on how to turn a red state blue, and he did it in Colorado. Yes. But I want to point something out to you. Even if they don't become citizens, even if they don't have voting rights, they are counted on the census. And when they're counted on the census, that state picks up more seats in that area. So if they bring the immigration, remember this big fight that Trump fought back in 2017, 2018, and in 2020 about not allowing the illegals to be counted on the census, said you had to be a U.S. citizen. The court at that time overruled him and said that that doesn't matter, that the census is based on population, and that census is how they pick up seats. So say New York City, who's lost population, they were able to pick up seats because of the census. Now that doesn't mean that everybody's voting. That just means that the congressman is roughly having 740 individuals or constituents per their district, 740,000. So when you start looking at that, that's how they can control the House, by picking up more seats. So they also at the same time have a tendency to be able to change that voting block to when you start talking about electoral votes, because they get more electoral votes also based on the number of congressional seats.
Yeah,
so they can do an end around on us by not even making them citizens and not giving illegals voting rights. So they've already done it on the census part of it. It's a really scary, and Benny, what you're talking about is very, very scary, which is why we've been talking about this for a long time, except you're the one that's leading the conversation.
So we need mass deportations. How do we accelerate those? The administration says that there have been 2 million people who have either been deported or have left voluntarily. Obviously, the big, beautiful bill flooded DHS with a lot more resources. What would you like to see when it comes to the acceleration of the clearly criminal underbelly of our nation? What we started with here, Senator, was what's happening in Charlotte, which please put up the map. You know, what's happening in Charlotte is remarkable. You're able to see what a city looks like without all of the criminal aliens. And yeah, I know that there are some construction sites that are empty, but you should be hiring Americans for those jobs, honestly. And businesses should be forced to do that. Obviously, this is just the traffic map, but what can we do to accelerate this throughout the country?
Let me talk about the traffic map too. So Oklahoma is working with DHS and Department of Transportation. You know, all these illegals that are driving semis on the road and killing individuals, traffic stops, they can't read English. So our state took a heavy approach to this, and our state troopers, great individuals. They're the ones that provide security for me. They are absolutely studs, and they got a great leader that's leading the state, and the Governor Stitt, or not leaving the state, but leading the troopers, and Governor Stitt gave them the ability to be able to work with ICE and with DHS. They started doing rolling traffic stops on our interstates coming in. So coming in out of Texas, coming in out of New Mexico, coming in and out of Arkansas and Missouri. And it's amazing. We started catching so many semis on the road. The first time we did it is 110 illegal semis on the road that were driving with CDLs that literally said no name given. That was on the name. And they were coming from, the license were only issued in California and New York. We only did this for 10 hours. We took 110 off of one stop. This was a northbound, or I'm sorry, this was coming out of Amarillo, Texas. So it was going eastbound on I-40. We also did it on I-44, and we just finished one on 69 Highway coming out of Texas. Each time we had, and that, by the way, the 110 was just off the one coming out of Amarillo, Texas. The other numbers are staggering too. We took 10 felons off the road just 2 days ago coming out on 69 Highway coming in. The traffic, what you showed there, the trucks, we put an airplane in the sky. The trucks were stopping on truck stops and had the truck stops full in Texas, and they weren't coming into Oklahoma, and then they were rerouting around us because of traffic on 69 Highway that is normally just crammed with trucks all of a sudden went quiet. And so now we're working, trying to do a 13-state wide all the same day so these trucks can avoid us, to try taking these truckers off the road that are causing these accidents. And and literally every single one of them, Benny, have a license that are out of California or out of New York. And I'm not joking, the license underneath name says no name given. And it is the most absurd thing that you've ever seen. That's one thing that we can do for deportation. We got to get them as they're traveling. Second thing is that there has to be a coordination and overall coordination, like I'm talking about, not just one spot at a time, because these individuals, they communicate, and they'll migrate from one area to the next when the enforcement comes in. And if you're allowing them to migrate, you're just playing whack-a-mole. So the DHS has made it very clear. We've told them to self-deport. If they self-deport, they can fill out the immigration information legally on the border before they enter into the United States, and we will process that. But if we deport you, you're not going to be able to come back in the United States legally. But if we do it, so they know this, but if we were able to do a mass 13, 14, 15 states, or just say we do all the red states all one day.
Yeah.
And that's how you're able to do a mass deportation all at once, but it takes you an unbelievable amount of coordination which I feel like the state of Oklahoma is leading this. We had DHS with us 2 days ago. It wasn't 2 days ago. It was actually Monday. That were down with us the whole time, seeing the way we're doing it, and is going to present this to other states, because we've got it working well in Oklahoma.
How do Republicans sell this? I'm constantly obsessed with marketing. Republicans are just clowned constantly by the left. Epstein is a great example.
Yeah, and the healthcare, right?
Epstein, healthcare. These are crippling issues for Democrats. These are issues that Democrats can't defend, and if ever pressed on them, they just fall to pieces. But Republicans have no capacity to just market and sell to the American people. And oftentimes, some of your colleagues will, take a bogey and be like, "Yeah, oh, it's because the media, right?" But like, not today, man. Like, not today. It's not like there's like only 3 networks and you don't control them. Like, many means of getting this message out. How do Republicans send the message to the American people that your life is so much better with mass deportations, whether it's schools, rent prices, home prices, grocery prices, gas prices, electricity prices, whether it is simply the security you feel walking down the street, that is the most marketable. It's like a 90-10, 95-5 issue, Senator, if Republicans did it right.
Well, because we want to explain ourselves. So we try to sell policy, and the Democrats are selling politics. Yes. There's 2 different things when you do that. I mean, for instance, we tried to explain healthcare. You can't, the generation, the population that is listening, other than in your show and some of these other podcasts, they want the 8-second version, the Green New Deal, affordable healthcare, right? Build back better. It's the small little things that the Democrats put out there, but they don't have to explain it. And then we try to explain why their position is awful. It's like right now we're trying to explain our way out of healthcare, and they're saying the Republicans are the one running it. And I'm like, and you ought to hear our conversations we have in our conferences. Everybody's coming up with these long ideas. We need to message it this way. We need to talk about what's happening really in the healthcare industry. We need to talk about what's happening with price. And I'm like, no. All we got to do is stand up and say it's unaffordable. Obama said it was going down 25%. It's up 221%. Which one's better? Before affordable health care or now that you're living in the world? It's easy to explain when you start talking about immigration. Okay, it's like Reagan said about Jimmy Carter. Are you better off before Carter got in office, or are you worse off? Because I believe better days are ahead of us. Not what Jimmy Carter was saying is by putting on a sweater. This is how Reagan explained it. If we're going to get out there and explain it, just say, do you feel safer walking down your streets today? Or did you feel safer walking down your streets 18 months ago? And let people think about it rather than us trying to explain the policies of it.
Well, yeah. How about 30 years ago, right? How about 30 years ago? Like back when I was born, and back when when you were a very young man in the 80s, back when before 150.
Are you saying I'm older than you? Is that what you're
150?
saying?
I don't actually know how old you are.
I'm 48.
You're 40. Okay, all right. So you're 10 years older than me. So like you were riding a bike. You were riding your bike, your radio flyer with your baseball cards in the spokes down your street in the 1980s. You were like the little kid in E.T. All right. Yeah. Okay.
No, this is a true statement.
So has the country gotten better? Has the country gotten actually better with 150 new migrants, most of them from the third world, brought here that don't share our culture or traditions? The answer is no. No. You could. The metrics of everything except for GDP, like the metrics on everything, have collapsed. Home ownership for young people, the price, the affordabilities, like security, safety, the prisons overflowing. Nothing has gotten better, actually.
Do you know the people that appreciate their citizenship, honestly, more than almost anyone, is the people who went through the process legally?
Sure.
And most of those that go through the process legally actually are Republicans. And that was proven during Trump's last election. They're fed up with the illegal immigration because it's giving them a bad name.
Yeah.
And so it's not just immigration, it's the legal, because when you allow them to come over illegally and you allow them to break a law when they come into the United States, what makes you think they're going to be law-abiding citizens once they immigrate or integrate into our cities? They're not. It doesn't work that way. It's kind of like allowing a child to throw a fit at the grocery store the first time. You think you won't do it the second time or the third time or the fourth time. At some point, you got to put your foot down. For me, I made sure their butt hurt. And so you have to at some time have to enforce the law, and because we're a nation of law or we're a lawless nation. It's that simple. And I get, listen, you said this a while ago in Charlotte, but this isn't just in Charlotte, it's happening all over the United States. We have job sites. I'm in the construction business. We have plumbing, HVAC, electrical companies, and so I get it. Job sites are empty right now. They really are. But at the same time, you're seeing income for the first time, real income brought home income increase for the first time in like 6 years. The reason why you're seeing that is because we are, and the construction industry is having to hire these individuals. Now, if you look at licensed professions like plumbing, HVAC, and electrical, where you have to have a license through the state to be an apprentice, you got to be a licensed journeyman or a licensed contractor, those individuals, they don't really have the influx of illegals working for them. But you start looking at roofers, you're looking at framers, sheetrockers, masonaries, all those are subcontractors where you hired the company that was legal, the owner, and they would pull up to a job site in a white van or an F-250 crew cab, white, and 12 people would walk out of it. And those individuals are coming in, they're all getting paid cash. Those jobs, yes, have slowed down, but it's because it was easier for contractors to hire illegals than it was for them to hire legals. And so now the industry, the construction industry, is shifting a little bit, but it will shift. And we will learn how to build things here. We'll be able to put people back to work because they're not, this is actually what the Democrats want to talk about by livable wages, by trying to increase the minimum wage, minimum wage is supposed to be a starting pay, never livable. When we get these trades actually hiring Americans again, that is more than a livable wage. That's top end of the middle class. I mean, my plumbers, my HVAC, my electricians in Oklahoma, I guarantee you are the top 2% income earners in Oklahoma. And that's why our trades are growing, because they had to be licensed. These other trades need to come along with us, and you're going to see it, which is exactly what you talked about. And mass deportation is going to take a coordination of not just one city at a time and not just ICE going in there, but accumulation of red states working together, synchronizing themselves by being able to bring everyone and one large sweep and do it, once, twice, 3 times a month. On the other side of that, as we were going on the air here with you, I was getting phone calls because we've been doing this. The problem that you run into when you're doing enforcement in Oklahoma, you also run out of detention areas because you don't just arrest them one day and deport them the next. There is a period of time that takes place. There's some government relationships that got to take place. There's a lot of the times you got to figure out who these individuals are. You've got to run their data because some of them are wanted felons in other countries too, not just the United States. It's not just sending them back to Mexico, by the way. You're catching people from Asia countries, from the Middle East. I mean, you're catching everybody, especially in trucking industry. So there's a wait period. Well, that wait period means you got to have detention areas. I have community leaders. I'm not joking. As you were calling my name, I was hanging up the phone because I have people upset that detention areas are going in their towns, that they're using old Walmarts or old, big lots that they're trying to put into temporary holding centers while they can get these people processed because our federal system in Oklahoma is overwhelmed.
So I have a final question for you, Senator, and I obviously I think there's no shortage of empty Kmart's, or whatever. Set up Alligator Alcatraz here and hopefully after the Supreme Court ruling yesterday, we'll be able to do these deportations more expediently. The major critical issue for us on this program, and something that we are going to be spearheading with great energy and verve, is the housing crisis for young people. And as somebody who knows housing, I want to get your take on what are some of the real world capacity that we have to fix this crisis, because it is, in fact, the number one theft of the American dream for our young people. What must be done?
So there's a couple of things. Let's just take blue states, for instance. Blue states, I was in Oregon. You was talking about Oregon the other day, a while ago, about Oregon being really hard Trump. I went to Oregon to speak at a Lincoln Day rally and do some events just 2 Saturdays ago. Blown away, Benny. Blown away by the turnout. And this was outside of Portland. The unions there came out, supported me for being there, actually did an event for me while I was there, and they brought it to my attention too. They said, we have people that are waiting on the bench because we can't go to work because they've regulated these red cities have regulated us out of work. We can't build. You can't build apartments. You can't build condos. You can't build new housing additions because the environmentalists have stopped everything. We can't build roads. We can't build bridges. So you can't build infrastructure. So what's causing the housing crisis is, one, if they can build it, all these regulations, all these mandates add cost to every lot you purchase, to every house you purchase. And it brings the cost of a house up from doing maybe $100 a square foot. It's up to $350 a square foot or $400 a square foot because the cost just to enter, if they can even get the purchase done. So we've regulated a lot of our housing out of feasibility. You can take that in New York, you can take it in Portland, you can take it in California, you can take it in any red state you want to. That's the biggest issue. In the state of Oklahoma, the reason why we don't have, or in some of our red states, the reason why we don't have mass building is because the profit margins aren't as high, because we don't have the dense population that, say, some of these red states or these blue states have. And so we have to attract the building community and the building contractors to come in. It's simple math. It's supply and demand, but it's also the cost of entry. So that from the federal government and from the state government, what are we requiring these houses to be built? I want safe and I want health. I want safe and health and let's see, it's safety and health are the two biggest issues that you look at on buildings. So what are the regulations that we're putting on there that's above and beyond that? That's cost prohibitive to bring down the cost of housing. It's not just extending HUD homes. It's not just having affordable housing being built because you're subsidizing it. It's not rent control. It's having suppliers come in and bring down the cost of regulations and bring costs down the mandates, and have the state and federal government bring it down by allowing more people to build, have more houses on the market. It's going to bring the cost down because you can still build a house today for $100 a square foot if you're able to bring down the cost of everything that goes into the house, including purchasing the lot and the infrastructure that's required. One of the big things that's added so much to homes right now is any dual homes that you have, like duplexes or quadplexes. They're making you go in and you're putting fire suppression in them. Okay, I get people don't want to burn up. I understand that, but does anybody understand how much cost that puts into a house to put fire suppression on the house, and then how much insurance costs on top of that? Because now you have more water lines that are exposed, and sprinkler systems are very prone to leaking, and how much damage that causes to the house. So now the homeowner or the person that's building the house has to insure that house for 2 years because they got to have warranty on it. So the cost of that goes through the roof. And then the cost of simply having the sprinkler system means the infrastructure that you got to bring in, meaning the water supply line that you got to bring into it, you have to assume that 3 houses are all going to be blowing at the same time. So now the water line that should be a 2-inch water line is now put up to a 6-inch water line. That cost, although I know that's simple, but all those little bitty costs add to the affordability of a home. And so we need to take a hard look at this stuff because affordable housing is unaffordable right now.
Yes. Affordable housing is unaffordable. Okay. It's a perfect DC line. the Affordable Care Act is unaffordable. Yes. Thank you, Washington. Thank you, Senator. Thank you for proving the point. I know we have to move here, but very quickly, please, because these are too you're right about the complication. Republicans have a capacity to do this, to take a simple solution that could be sold to the American people and then to overcomplicate it. And you're not, sorry, Senator, but I'm not going to win by talking to kids about water lines. Okay. I know. You're not going to win a stadium of children, to say that we care about their housing by telling them about 6-inch, the difference between 2-inch and 6-inch water lines. So you're true. You have to actually boil it down a little better. We're going to be working really hard on this program. We're going to be announcing some partnerships with AFPI and other organizations to try and create a slate of understandable and acceptable policies that could actually be implemented and could be sold to the American people, because the alternative is we're selling them rent control. That's what's happening right now with Mandami. Mandami is selling them rent control homes. So, and it worked, by the way. It worked, and it radicalized me. And this is the last thing I was working on with Charlie Kirk, and it's something that we must. It is the ball game. If young kids can seize the American dream through home ownership or not, it leads to higher family creation, higher children creation, like the joy and happiness in life, and then an actual ownership of our land. So, what are your thoughts on a first-time homebuyer credit?
Well,
I would have to pass through Congress.
First-time home buyer credit, I have no issue with it. I actually, was a first-time home buyer back when I was 19 years old when I bought my first house. And if there wasn't some first-time home buyer loans out there, I would have never been approved at 19 years old. And so I've owned my whole house since I was 19. But here's the problem. Rent control just means that you're going to limit the amount of people that can enter the space. You're not going to have builders go in because they can't afford it. If you don't take care of what's the cost of the input into building homes, it doesn't matter. And so trying to subsidize it, that's the Democrats' solution. They want to subsidize it. They want to put taxpayer to it. That's just putting a Band-Aid on the bigger problem. President Trump's approach is let's cut for every one new regulation, cut 20. That is what will bring down the cost of construction. Having permit reform, actual permit reform, and I know this gets wonky, but that is how you bring down the cost of construction. By getting the federal government out of it and putting the money in the states, because any federal job, including federal housing, is almost 100%, and I'm not joking when I say this, is almost or more than 100% more than what it would be for a private individual to build it. The reason why is because it's how much mandates and different regulations that are put onto federal housing versus when it's built just for the state or a private homeowner. And so all that stuff has to be looked at, which is what President Trump is really no one knows building better than him. And that's his big push. That's why you hear Scott Bassett say he really feels like things are going to get better in this first and second quarter of 2027 of next year, because these effects are starting to go into place.
2026, yes.
So, or 26, I say 27, sorry, 26. I jumped a full year on me.
All right. I didn't know that you had this background. You have to join me in some of these initiatives in seeking what is going to have to be a slate of policies to fix housing in this country. We're going to be doing some big announcements tomorrow. I'll text you offline, Senator, but we got some real things rolling. Thank you, Senator, for joining our program. Everybody follow Mark Wayne Mullen, 314,000 followers on X. Godspeed.
Thanks, brother.
Ladies and gentlemen, Scott Jennings is locked and loaded, and we had a little bit of a problem yesterday with Scott, and we're so thrilled that he can make it again today. Let's rock and roll, Scott Jennings. Scott, welcome back to the show. I appreciate you rejoining us.
Yeah, we defeated the internet gremlins, and here we are today.
Yeah, that's right. We always say it's the Communist Party of China, and they don't like what we have to say, and so them and the CIA are just meddling with our feed.
I hear you.
Yeah. So we were talking yesterday about Epstein and the backfire of the Epstein saga on the Democrat Party, and potentially how bad Republicans are at messaging this. You're a very gifted Republican messenger on CNN. How would you coach Republicans out of this mess?
Well, first of all, it's become evident that Democrats wanted this to be a story about Trump and Epstein. That's been the narrative. They're good at making narratives. They're not good at facts, but they're good at narratives.
Yes.
But everything we've seen and everything I think we're going to see is going to be a story about Epstein and Democrats. I mean, what do we know? We know Trump excommunicated Epstein from his life when he realized the guy was a total creep. But even after he was convicted, Democrats continued to be buddies with this guy. They sought his advice. He programmed members of Congress. They sought dating tips from him. They fundraised from him. And so I think we have to be relentless in pointing out the line of demarcation. Trump got rid of this guy. Democrats never did. And so that, to me, is the simplest way to frame this. Of course, I don't know what's going to be in the files. I don't know when the information's coming out. But what we already know, this isn't a story about Trump. It's a story about Democrats and their willingness to be friends with a sex trafficker for political reasons or messaging reasons or what have you.
And not just friends with a sex trafficker, being operated by a sex trafficker. I think that what the American public is really concerned with here, Scott, is that the worst instincts in this Epstein saga is that he was operating large swaths of our government, or at the very least had compromised considerable portion of the government. And it just seems to be proving that with every single release. Everything from Mike Johnson saying it's a national security issue to release these files. Well, I mean, what is it, a hoax or a national security issue? It can't be both. But then also with Stacey Plaskett, man, like straight up, you might as well just elect Jeffrey Epstein to Congress as a Democrat, put him in charge of the Democrat in the House, make him minority leader.
It's shocking.
Yeah, because he was just running. He was running this stuff, man.
Literally texting the guy. What do I say? What do I say now? Say this.
Yeah.
From his, he might as well have been a Democrat member of Congress. And I'll tell you something. I don't know if you saw it yet, but this Jasmine Crockett, you know, she went on the floor of the House and tried to smear all these Republicans for supposedly taking money from Epstein. It was Dr. Jeffrey Epstein from New York, and she goes on CNN last night, and then she had the worst television implosion I have seen in 10 years. And so, look, this episode has put front and center some of the biggest Democratic failures. And I think oftentimes the best way to defeat an opponent is to let them talk. And so Stacey Plaskett, if they want that to be their person on Jeffrey Epstein, fine. I'd be glad to let her talk. If they want to let Jasmine Crockett explain Jeffrey Epstein to America, fine. I'd be glad to let her talk too. Sometimes we don't have to do much because they're doing it for us. But this thing that Crockett did, A, it was despicable. To go to the floor of the House and smear, I mean, by the way, she's now smeared a private citizen. But B, to go on last night and try to explain it, oh my gosh. I'm going to play it on my radio show. I'm going to play the whole thing. It's the biggest implosion I've seen in 10 years.
I mean, careful what you wish for, right? But you are starting to see that the voices of the Democrat Party are running through AOC, Jasmine Crockett, more radical wing, and it's a gift that keeps on giving. However, it's a gift that is winning when it comes to municipalities like New York, right? So we're going to see Mamdani and Trump meet tomorrow. What are we going to see there?
Well, I hope Donald Trump explains to Mamdani how the world works. I mean, Mamdani says outrageous things. I mean, first of all, on immigration, he's clearly going to do what the rest of these Democrat local people have done, which is resist federal immigration enforcement, which will be a disaster for New York City. So Trump's going to have to talk to him about that. Also, I mean, saying he's going to arrest, you know, the prime minister of a foreign country if he comes to New York City. Well, I mean, again, this is not your job, brother. Like you're not in charge of international diplomacy. You're the mayor of New York City. So, you know, the guy's never had a job. I'll give him a little grace. But I hope Donald Trump tells him how the world works on Friday. They do need to have some kind of a relationship. But my expectation of Mamdani is that he's going to do what every other Democrat mayor and most Democrat governors have done, try to resist the federal government and resist Trump at every turn. And so, you know, I'm glad for the meeting, but I don't have any expectations Mamdani wants to do anything other than be the most radical version of these Democratic resistors that we've seen already for the last 10 months.
Yeah, you call them Democrat resistors. The most viral video in my feed right now are a bunch of Democrats saying that the intel agencies and CIA and Pentagon have to resist Donald Trump. They need to resist the administration. They need to hold out. They need to not follow orders. We saw the same thing at HHS, yet none of these people are ever called insurrectionists. Scott, why is that?
Yeah, that video, first of all, I've been asking for 2 straight days, what illegal orders are you speaking of? Don't follow illegal orders. Has there been one ordered? Has there been one given? No one has been able to produce an illegal order that I know of. So this is sort of a made up alternate reality. And I don't know whether they're actually sending a message to the military or they're just trying to send a message to their radicalized base that we're fomenting, sort of the resistance to Donald Trump. Either way, this is horrific. I mean, this is everything they said Donald Trump ever tried to do encapsulated in one video, as it relates to insurrection or anything else. And so I was stunned by that video. I know I'm the same. I've heard from tons of people who were stunned, ex-military, couldn't believe what they were seeing out of these Democrats. Again, I go back to what I said a moment ago. Sometimes letting them talk is the best thing we can do. I think most average people would see that and think, what are you talking about? What planet are you living on? You want the military to disobey the commander in chief? Do you know how our government works? And so I don't know. I think in their zeal to gin up their radical base or to try to please their radical base, they are putting themselves farther and farther away from, frankly, just average everyday people who sort of know how things work. And that is not how things work.
We're gonna see more of AOC. What do you think? Do you think that the 2028, 2026 and 2028 Do you think that the Mandami party, the strand of radical Democrat socialists, is going to completely reanimate the corpse of the Democrat Party, and that's just going to be the future, and it's going to be MAGA versus Marxism? Do you agree with that contention?
100%. Look, the most popular Democrat in the country right now is Mamdani. I saw some survey data on this the other day. He's the most popular Democrat in the country. He's out quoting socialist candidates for president from 100 years ago. He's the most popular Democrat in the country. She is the front runner for the Democratic nomination. I have no doubt of it. I mean, yes, the beating heart of their party is this ideology. It is this radicalism. And so you see all these other Democrats who aren't really authentically that way. That's why they made that video. They're trying to keep up. They're trying to catch up with her. They're trying to ride that jet stream, and they look sort of ridiculous in the process. Mamdani can't run because he's not a natural born citizen, but she can. And I have no doubt she is their front runner. I'd be shocked if she doesn't run for president, and I'd say she's going to be difficult to beat in their primary. They stopped. You know, it's interesting. They went through this in 16 and 20, and they held it off. I don't think they're going to hold it off again.
Wow. So they're not going to be able to Bernie. They're not going to be able to say, "Hey, Bernie, okay, here's a book deal in a private island. Here's your third house. Just stop talking about."
I think Bernie, he's their intellectual god. I mean, look what Biden did. He got elected sort of promising to be a moderate deal maker. Like, oh, I'm an insider. I'll bring people together. It'll be moderate, whatever. And then he outsourced the entire agenda for 4 years to Sanders. The intellectual godfather of their movement is Sanders. The operator is AOC. And those are the two people that are providing the energy in their party right now. That's who people on the left are responding to. They're not responding to so-called moderates or normal people or whatever. I mean, the person they call moderate in Virginia that just got elected governor still wants to put boys in girls' locker rooms.
Yes.
That's not moderate. Okay. It's not moderate.
I think it's going to backfire, but we'll see. I mean, we'll see. It's been pretty radicalizing to watch how the left has shifted from Bernie Sanders on some issues. Like Bernie Sanders 20 years ago was a close the border, build the wall Democrat because he understood populism and he understood that you had to support the American worker. Now we're seeing these maps out of Charlotte. Let me pop one up for you. Everybody is able to see the benefits of mass deportations, sort of what the show is about today, and going through how many of these large metros get so significantly better when ICE comes in and starts enforcing the laws. Do you think Republicans will be able to sell this?
Absolutely, because it's not only a national security and a public safety issue, it's an economic issue. I heard you talking to the senator before I popped on here about how we're going to talk to people about housing. I'll tell you one thing. When you remove the illegal alien population, it alleviates pressure in housing. I mean, if you bring in 20 million people, guess what? They live places. They compete with Americans for housing. You take illegal populations out of a situation, they're not competing with American citizens for housing anymore. So that's one area where I do think you can see connective tissue in a political campaign. Because of our work on closing the border and deporting, housing prices are going to drop in a lot of places in this country. Also, crime is going to go down. I debated this on CNN the other night. Up in Upper Charlotte, they've had a massive crime issue. They've had a murder rate increase up there. Some of it is due to MS-13. It's a human trafficking hub. I mean, Charlotte needed to be looked at. I think everybody who lives there knows it.
Yeah.
And so what the Democrats are doing is they're doing the same thing again. Well, actually, crime is down. Actually, nobody who lives there believes it. Nobody who lives there believes it because they know the truth. And so I don't know. I think for the midterms, this immigration issue is it's not a standalone. It's connected to so many things. It's connected to national security. It's connected to economic security. It's connected to housing prices. It's connected to wages. It is the core of what got Donald Trump engaged in presidential politics in the first place. It's why they elected him. And it is the biggest promise that he has kept. And it is connected to virtually everything else he is doing.
You're so right. You're so right. My schools are too crowded. There's too much traffic.
Yes.
Prices for the grocery store is too high. Gasoline's too high. My electricity is too high. My housing prices, my rent prices, all of it. I don't feel safe on the streets. All of it is connected to criminal immigration. All of it.
Yes.
Every thread goes right back to that.
And as a political matter, I mean, go back to the beginning. It's what motivated his movement to begin with. It's why people elected him. It is still his biggest and best issue. We haven't had an illegal border crossing in like 5 months. We had hundreds of thousands of people coming across. In the book that I have out this week, A Revolution of Common Sense, I do a lot on immigration. Man, he hit this thing hard. Especially here in the second term. And of course, the Democrats did what they always do. They reflexively resist everything. You were talking about Bernie Sanders 20 years ago. That party is gone. They are all in on illegal immigration, up to and including, a U.S. senator going to El Salvador trying to retrieve a member of MS-13 and bring him back to the United States. And so all of their energy is behind things that to the average person sounds crazy. If we're common sense, they're uncommon nonsense. But on the immigration issue, they took no, they didn't accept any resistance. They went right after it. They're still going right after it. I'm very proud of them. And by the way, they are facing a propaganda campaign on this like we have never seen. I sit and listen to it every single night. What they say about ICE, how they describe ICE enforcement, the way they describe these stories and these interactions, it's almost entirely made up. It's almost entirely fabricated. ICE is, how many laws have we passed, Benny, since Trump took over? 0. We have not passed a single immigration law. We are simply enforcing immigration laws that are currently on the books and have been on the books for years. This is the President of the United States upholding his oath of office to faithfully execute the laws of this country that have been in existence. Biden told ICE, don't enforce the law. Trump says, just enforce the law. And hey, novel concept, it's working.
You just mentioned here that you have to listen to it every single night on CNN. We have a treat for you here in closing, Scott. Some of our favorite expressions of you on CNN that our producers have grabbed. This is called the patience of Job is what this is called. And there's more. Let's just there you go. I don't know how you do it, bro. This one's good. I like this. This should be your Christmas card. This is I don't even understand this one.
That lady right there, let me tell you something right now. She's out there.
Yeah. That is a very Klingon expression. Let's continue here. Yep, that's good. This is great. This is part of the reason we wanted to have you on the show was to just get to see if we couldn't elicit some of these expressions and to say, well done. Well done this week. Here's Scott and the President here in the Oval Office with his book, his brand new book on common sense, a revolution of common sense, and how Donald Trump stormed Washington and fought for Western civilization. Any stories from the White House here, Scott, in closing?
Yeah, saw the president. I got a pretty good tutorial on the East Wing construction, and I learned a lot about that while I was in there. And he was talking a lot about. I mean, there's always people coming and going, and there were a lot of issues under discussion that night. He was actually on his way after I left to the McDonald's thing, which I still think is one of the greatest campaign stunts ever pulled. It was so brilliant, and the fact that he went back to it a year later. But he was. Look, I think he believes. They've done a lot. He's been an amazing foreign affairs president. He's done a lot domestically. He got his entire domestic policy agenda passed in the big, beautiful bill. And yet he keeps getting sidetracked by these propaganda campaigns, by these distractions, and so on and so forth. And I know it's frustrating to him. I still think he's the best salesman in American politics. And so for the Republicans in 2026, yes, there's a lot of policy things we got to do. I think the housing thing you're working on is brilliant to reach people because it is a crisis out there. Yes. Now the Affordable Care Act is revealed as a total failure. There's a chance to attack on that. But at some level, we just got to get the salesman in chief back out to the American people and talk to them and draw the line. Here's what we're doing and here's what we're for. Here's what they're for. What we're for is common sense. And by definition, what they're for is uncommon nonsense. There's nobody better at explaining it than him. It's how he defeated them in 24. He drew the line. And now he's been governing. But at some point, we got to get back into sales mode. I have a lot of confidence that he's going to do it, but we don't have a better salesman than him. And he'll, if we are to win in 26, it will be on his back and his political steam.
Boy, is that a matter of fact? Doesn't this Epstein saga prove that the Republican Party can be cudgeled, can be destroyed by something of their own making? I just can't believe how dumb it is. Also, if this was that damaging, then why didn't you do it while Biden was president? It boggles the mind. Like, why couldn't Republicans push for this and use it as an alternate wedge against Democrats? It's a genius tactic, actually, what they're doing right now. They don't have a foot to stand on, and it's all upheld by propaganda, but it's amazing to see just how neutered our Republican Party, certainly in the House and in Congress, can be. Okay, so final question here. Was the greatest salesman in the Oval Office able to sell you on running for Senate in Kentucky for Mitch McConnell's seat?
We did not discuss any political. Actually, you know what? We did discuss one political campaign. We discussed Kentucky's 4th congressional district. He was interested in. I lived there. Thomas Massey is my congressman, and he was just kind of interested in how things were going on the ground. So his interest in Kentucky was revolving around. He loves the guy running against Massey. He loves Ed Galrine, who he met with recently and endorsed. So that was as it related to Kentucky. That was what was on his mind.
The great Scott Jennings with a brand new book out. Here is once again the Amazon link for A Revolution of Common Sense. It is a #1 bestseller right now and probably a perfect stocking stuffer and Christmas gift. Ladies and gentlemen, we could all use a little more common sense. And thank you, Scott, for bringing it every single day and fighting for truth and the American way on CNN. Into the heart of the dragon, into the belly of the beast. The great Scott Jennings. You can follow him here. Godspeed, Scott.
Thanks, Benny. Appreciate you, brother.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate your patience with us this morning as we sort of like just speak from the heart, where we always speak from. Speaking of my heart, we have high blood pressure. I do. I have terribly high blood pressure. It runs in the family. A 120 Life helps me with my blood pressure every single day, especially as we get through these Epstein news cycles. I can't. Don't say it during the partnership, Benny. Don't do it. It's insane what Republicans did. These files have been so damaging to Democrats, and yet we were sitting there for 4 years and didn't just bring them up. We could have done this to Joe Biden. The Republican Party could have done this to Joe Biden. Democrats are in the minority right now in both houses, in both chambers. They don't have the presidency. We could have done this, but we're not smart enough. That's what we're fighting for, ladies and gentlemen. You want to see why the blood pressure goes high? You know, I'm in the 50% though. 50% of America has high blood pressure. It's a real killer. It's not good for you. 120 Life is a beautiful blend of 5 all-natural ingredients that have been proven to lower your blood pressure. It's also really helpful for people with diabetes. And it has just 1 gram of sugar. This is not a fad. That's why thousands of health professionals have supported this product. Hundreds of doctors actively recommend 120 Life to their patients. Pick it up today. Get 20% off with the code Benny. You can go to 120life.com, 120life.com, and use my code Benny for 20% off. Try it risk-free for 2 weeks. If your blood pressure doesn't come down, you get a full refund. Nothing to lose except your high blood pressure numbers, ladies and gentlemen. Let's talk about one other thing that I want you to lose this holiday season, which is your high interest debt. American Financing can help you do that. High interest credit card debt is crippling for American families right now. It is something that is a burden at a higher rate than it has ever been. It is something that gets you into slavery for the rest of your life. These interest rates in the 20s and 30s are criminal, and man, it can really destroy your capacity to get ahead. So with rates dropping right now, it's the perfect time to pay off your debt. American Financing is helping homeowners enjoy access to equity in their homes and instant savings, and they're saving people like you an average of $800 a month in their credit card bills, and they can reconsolidate those into the low 5s. It's a game changer. American Financing, ladies and gentlemen, at 888-528-1219. That's 888-528-1219, americanfinancing.net/Benny. Okay. There is a Democrat member of Florida that was just thrown in handcuffs. Well, we'll wait for that. We want to see the frog march. Her name is Sheila Cherfulis McCormick. Say that right? Okay. Cherfulis McCormick is accused of stealing $5 million in FEMA funds. What happened here? This representative, we'll call her Representative Sheila. She's a Democrat from Florida. She was hit with federal indictment Wednesday, accusing her of stealing $5 million from FEMA to support her 2021 congressional campaign. Oh, weird. I wonder what happened here exactly. Like, why hasn't this been investigated for the last 4 years? They just hit her with it now. It's nearly 2026. This happened in 2021. Sherfulis McCormick, let's just call her Sheila from now on, has been under investigation by the House Ethics Committee, was indicted by a federal grand jury in Miami, faces 53 years in prison if convicted. She used disaster relief funds for self-enrichment. It's particularly selfish, cynical crime, says Pam Bondi in a statement. We will follow the facts and the case and deliver justice. The Justice Department alleges that this member of Congress, the Democrat member of Congress, and several of her co-defendants, always the brother, right? Always the scumbag family members, conspired to steal overpayment of $5 million in FEMA funds their family health care company received in July 2021. How did she steal it? She rerouted the funds through multiple campaign accounts. A substantial portion of the misappropriated funds went to candidate contributions for her congressional campaign. Oh, that's filthy. Here she is being questioned on this.
She was back in the district at this event. We tried again.
I also wanted to ask you about the investigation into your families, but this is also part of her congressional duties. Congresswoman, you know, you're under investigation for the congressional ethics for violation of campaign finances. Congresswoman, this is your district. You have to answer to these people. Congresswoman.
Attorneys for her family's healthcare company aren't answering the I-Team's questions either. And the Department of Emergency Management says they won't comment on ongoing litigation, leaving taxpayers and her constituents wondering what happened to those millions.
I wonder what happened to the millions. A friend of the show, his name's Greg Stubbe. He's a great dude. He says that tomorrow I will be filing a privilege motion to censure Sherfulis McCormick and remove her from all committees. This is one of the most egregious abuses of public trust I've ever seen. Stealing $5 million of taxpayer disaster funds is beyond indefensible. Millions of Floridians have relied on FEMA after devastating hurricanes. That money was supposed to help disaster victims. Once the House Ethics concludes their investigation, she's formally convicted. Rest assured, I will move to expel her from Congress. Expel her now. Didn't they do this with George Santos? Expel her now. Such weaklings. We love Greg Stubbe, by the way. Like, he's not a weakling, but God, goodness gracious, expel her now. All right, ladies and gentlemen, looking ahead to our poly market at the polls. Let's rock and go. Who is going to announce for president first? We've been talking a little bit about this with Scott Jennings. Who will announce a presidential run before 2027? Boy, I don't agree with the Byron. I think he has a Byron Donald down here. I don't think so. We know Byron pretty well. Cory Booker up here leading the pack. Wes Moore, he's the governor of Maryland, doing a terrible job, by the way. Rand Paul, that's interesting. Josh Shapiro, Josh Hawley, J.B. Pritzker. Vivek Ramaswamy, also that's, I think I know. But Pritzker, clearly, and Shapiro are going to be running. Sarah Sanders? I don't think so. Gina Raimondo? No way. That's random. Glenn Youngkin and Kristi Noem. RFK. Jared Polis. Steve Bannon. Okay. That's interesting. And J.D. Vance, obviously, he won't be the first to announce, I doubt. And you can see here, what do we got all the way down at the bottom? And Barack Obama? Okay. Zoran Mandami and Erica Kirk. Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden with the crack photo. He's my favorite. This is why this polling is so much more fun. This is so much more fun. Okay, first off, Zoran Mandami wasn't born here, so he can't run for president. He's not legally allowed to run for president. Goodness, Tom Brady. No way. John Thune. Mark Cuban probably will. Tulsi Gabbard. What do you think about that? Tulsi Gabbard. Many people speculated that Tucker Carlson was told that they were trying to run him for president. Very interesting. Okay, something that'll happen in the next 30 days is the release of the Epstein files. Who will be named in them? Let's look. Highest percentage chance is David Koch. Goodness gracious. Ehud Barak, the Prime Minister, with former Prime Minister, big pal of Jeffrey Epstein, David Copperfield, Tony Blair, Alec Baldwin, Stephen Hawking, Jamie Dimon. I mean, a lot of this is just free money because we know these guys were palling around with Jeffrey Epstein. But yeah, for sure. Let's see. Any names here that surprise me? AOC? I doubt that. AOC's on there. I doubt that. Piers Morgan, that'll be interesting. We have an interview with Piers Morgan that'll drop today. So we'll see. We'll see what happens next. Ladies and gentlemen. We will be traveling tomorrow. We're excited to be assisting the Trump family in a fundraiser for St. Jude's this weekend. So we're going to be traveling. Pray for us as we'll be traveling to Chicago. We'll be at Mar-a-Lago tomorrow for a big announcement. As ever, when we travel, we will be traveling with our favorite cell phone company, with our favorite carrier, which is Patriot Mobile, our favorite and longtime supporter of the program and backbone of us when we are on the road. Patriot Mobile keeps us connected. They are the only Christian conservative wireless provider. We talk about them all the time because, well, it's the only way that we are able to work when we're bopping all over the country. And we're doing a lot of that. Goodness gracious. And I'm sick right now because my kids are sick. And so it's like just been a lot. It's been a lot. We've been traveling a lot more than we normally do. But we want to stay locked in with you. Obviously, Patriot Mobile helps us do that, even when we have to do the hateful travel around America. We do love doing these events. But goodness gracious, it is taxing at times. It's scary to be disconnected. Patriot Mobile makes sure that we are connected to premium coverage on all U.S. carriers and our mobile hotspots. Patriot Mobile's 100% U.S.-based customer service team can get you activated in minutes. Go to patriotmobile.com/Benny and call 972-PATRIOT. Use promo code Benny for a free month of service. patriotmobile.com/Benny. Call 972-PATRIOT. Ladies and gentlemen, the Christmas ornaments are flying off the shelves. I have a photo of a van from yesterday. This is a van load of Christmas ornaments that were shipped out to you. I can't even believe how many that we've shipped. As of this morning, we have shipped 23,000 units. 23,000 units. Here's the van. We're full of ornaments. Go get yours today. We say screw inflation around here. $5 per ornament, made right here in America by people who love this country, by veterans. Shop BennyJohnson.com. Verse of the day, ladies and gentlemen, from Proverbs 28:1. The wicked shall flee though no one pursue, but the righteous are as bold as a lion. Stay bold, stay strong. We've got good things ahead, good days ahead. I saw a vision about this last night. Like, we just need to keep fighting. These people, they don't have anything to fight for. We have everything to fight for in this nation. So keep going. In the end, we win. It's your boy Benny. See ya.
What's this stuff? Let's do try it. I'm not gonna try it. You try it. I'm not gonna try it. Let's get Mikey. Yeah. He won't eat it. He hates everything. He likes it.
Relax, kid. I keep telling you, who is pedo?
That's what I'm trying to find out.
And I'm telling you, who is pedo?
Now, what is pedo?
No, what is national security?
I don't care about national security.
No, I don't care is running the FBI.
The FBI? What happened to the cover-up?
That's handled by I don't know.
Then who's doing it?
Activate the statute of deportation.
Man, I can't wait to see people's faces when we come on shore. This should really get the city's positive energy flowing.
The statue of deportation has arrived in New York City.
Truth gon' be faith and freedom.
on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to life. From the speeches to debates, Benny sharp like a blade, cutting through the lies, watch the truth cascade. With the warrior's heart, this man never fades. You know it's prime time when Benny invades. From saving the nation to stories untold, the Benny Show's a storm, see the truth unfold. Stay in the loop, let freedom take hold. Salting all the libs, soul never sold. It's the Benny Show, where the truth gon' be. Faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. Liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Liberty to light. Bringing liberty to life. From the speeches to debates, Benny sharp like a blade, cutting through the lies, watch the truth cascade. With the warrior's heart, this man never fades. You know it's prime time when Benny invades. From saving the nation to stories untold, the Benny Show's a storm, see the truth unfold. Stay in the loop, let freedom take hold. Salting all the libs, soul never sold. It's the Benny Show, where the truth gon' be. Faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light.